Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for having me here to speak today about mobile user and mobile usage trends. I only got 15 minutes to talk about this. I think I could talk about it for an hour. So I'm really going to rush through this. If I'm too fast, I apologize. But I'm going to share a link in the end where you can download my slides. And I'll be here all day, so please approach me if you want to discuss any topic in particular. All right. I think we all agree that smartphones and smartphone penetration has been increasing around the world continuously. And it has reached a critical mass where no matter where in the world, we have a standardized ecosystem, sort of standardized user experience on how people interact with their phones. I think we all also agree that our lives have been moved into this mobile experience no matter where we are. Smartphone penetration in particular is still not at 100%. I mean, it's about over 50%, so we could say the majority of people are using smartphones nowadays. But continuously, it might grow, it might never reach 100%, but I think everybody in this room is within the smartphone life right now. It has also spurred billions of dollars in different industries, and those people have been growing significantly over the past years as well. So one particular difference, however, is although this is a standardized kind of industry globally on iOS or Android or other platforms, mobile user behavior changes depending on who you are and where you are. So if you compare the US with Europe, with India, China, Korea, Japan, and emerging markets, you would still see different user behavior. But I think we can still assume that the trends that are happening mostly all over the world with some local differences. So I'm going to go a little bit back. 5 years ago, there was a huge dispute about mobile web versus mobile apps, and I think this dispute is still going on. I don't know why. In reality, mobile web and mobile apps are just coexisting today. So if you look at the statistics on the slide, it shows user time spent on mobile web versus mobile apps by company. And these are user statistics from the US. So you see that Wikipedia gets a lot of time spent through their mobile web browser, which makes totally sense, right? Discovery happens through search. They land on their website. Facebook is completely the opposite in the US, which happens most time spent happens over the app. So I think the takeaway here is they're both not going to go away. Companies use both. However, it really matters what company you are, what you're doing, what service are you delivering, to find the right balance between mobile web and mobile apps. And I think the only thing that matters to the consumer is whatever I want to do right now, give it to me with the least clicks. So you send him down the path through an app or through a mobile web, and then you can re-engage him later. At a global scope, we're doing 6 different things on our phones. I'm going to go through these quickly. We do messaging, social networking. We use it for mobile commerce, buying tickets, and other things. We consume content, music, news, videos. We do search, especially local search on our smartphones, whatever matters around me, depending on where I am, and we consume through mobile web browsing information no matter what time it is. And then lastly, utilities, basically every sensor, everything that your phone can do, everything that software can do on my phone, delivers me another, addresses another need that I might have. And if you have been in these 6 areas over the past 5 years, I think your business has become golden. I think these are the areas where everything has been growing. If you look at company valuations and how these companies are doing, what investors have been looking at, this is the right place. So my speech is sort of over. This is what's happening. I think everything will grow in this space. Just kidding. So where is this going beyond these? There's changes, and I'm going to tap on what's happening right now and where it is happening right now. So first of all, I'm going to talk about engagement. We have 24 hours a day. I think that's the whole market size. There's nothing else in consumer space, right? If you look at the statistics, this is App Annie released this last week. So these are how many, by app category, how many sessions do we spend on each category? You have communication, social, games, and the rest. And you can see that the majority of sessions happen actually in these three categories. Now you can say, well, sessions don't really count because on WhatsApp, Hike, Messenger, you open them, open and close them all day, like 100 times, right? So if you shift over to how much time is spent on those apps, it's even bigger. Games grows, obviously, because per session you would spend more time on it, but also the time spent across these three categories is almost 2/3 on our devices that we need most in our lives, right? So if in business terms, everybody's fighting for our time of our 24 hours a day, and these three categories are currently dominating it. So where is it going? Everybody's fighting for that engagement race. And you can see that in what's happening in the industry. So Spotify attacks YouTube by offering videos as well. Twitter's experimenting with Periscope. And Facebook lets the Wall Street Journal publish their own articles on Facebook so you don't leave Facebook. But also, if they don't, then you click on a link and you still stay within the Facebook app. I hate that. They don't send you to a browser. You have to go and switch your settings, which I did with both Twitter and Facebook right away, because that's how I manage, how I read articles. But so they want to keep most of their users within their app because engagement goes up, and that's where the money is. They understand the more hours, the more money, at least in their business model. All right. Next topic, seamless FinTech solutions. FinTech's booming, everybody's happy in this space. I think it still hasn't been cracked if we talk about mobile payments. And everybody in this space is kind of racing right now, albeit it's not a big market yet. So if you look at the numbers, not even 10% globally are spending through mobile payments. Maybe this statistic is wrong. This is from Statista. I don't know. I don't know what their definition was. But in general, still credit card, debit card, and cash dominates what we do for a very simple reason. It's simplicity. Simplicity and just easy management. Google Play and the App Store do a great job for simplicity in a certain situation where I want to buy in-app, when I want to buy something online. PayPal is doing a great job with simplicity, buying something online, for example. But it's a very fragmented space. So I can't pay with Google Play at a certain situation where PayPal doesn't give me the other scenario. So it's fragmented, and just right now it's not convenient for a user. And when I talk about how to practice, in my view, and where the trend is going, it's based on three layers, and I'm going to get to that first one first. One-touch payment, and I think the Apple Watch. I kind of had to mention Apple Watch today about mobile payments because everybody is excited about it. Apple Watch really gives me that first check on one-touch payment. It educates the mass consumer that you can pay with one touch. Your phone can do the same thing, right? But all my American friends, they love Apple Watch, Apple Watch, Apple Watch, and then they talk about this payment option. They also made it more secure by introducing it, so it's a safer way to pay. But it really educates people with its credit card image on it. It's like, oh, that's my credit card, and I can pay through my Apple Watch with one touch. That's it, right? Soon they will realize I can do this with my phone, I can do this with other devices and so forth, so it's great education. If it wants to compete with cash, it needs to be as simple as cash. Secondly, which Apple Watch addresses partially together with the credit cards, is a secure transaction. So no matter what kind of mechanism you use, you want to be sure that this is safe, routed, it doesn't cost me anything, and it taps into whatever I set up initially. And the last part would be an intuitive kind of wallet. A digital wallet, an offline wallet, a bank account, doesn't matter what it is, but it gives me one place where I can manage all my transactions, where I can see all my transactions, where I can trust all what's happening within that ecosystem. And I think everybody's in this race in FinTech. The banks are in this race, telcos, Google is in this race, everybody is trying to solve this last part. And I think there's not one specific solution that really gives me all three layers, but that's what people are trying to address. Next topic. Everybody, I see so many startups pitching me that we are the Uber of whatever, right? And it's a very significant trend also for the mobile industry, because if you think of it, what Mark Andreessen said a few years ago, software is currently tapping into pretty much every industry in the world, pretty much every life situations in the world, and your phone is the key to that. So picture flower shop, picture handyman, Airbnb, you know, even hotels, airlines, and so forth. They had software before, but now everything aggregates onto your phone, and you're able to move a car with your phone. And it sounds really stupid, right? But the UI is really lean. You can see whatever Uber or Lyft or whatever Ola cab is walking around on your little map on your phone, and you can change that behavior. The heavy lifting is done outside of the mobile space. It's the business model and a lot of other software that is happening in the cloud or somewhere else. But your phone, you're dominating that business model through your phone specifically. And I think Flipkart and other Indian startups announced that they want to tap into purely that mobile experience, which is an indication for that as well. This is the most difficult topic to explain, and I think this is the most exciting area for me right now. It's some people call it smart commerce. It's basically contextual behavior of software. Our brains work in very interesting ways. So I flew from Singapore to Chennai, I arrived at the airport, and as soon as I get off, my brain moves into this context of how I get out of an airport based on my experience. I get into a I pay for a taxi, I go to the hotel. My phone or any app running on that don't get that, right? So contextually, and this is, I'm gonna show you a few stats from a Singapore-based startup called Semusi. They're actually trying to figure out what context we're in, all right? So for here, on the stats, it shows you across all apps, how are we using all apps in terms of what we're doing. So the majority of us, and this is data from India and Southeast Asia, we're using apps in a vehicle, sitting or standing most of the time, which is pretty logical, right? Fitness apps, however, we're using while running and walking, which is also pretty obvious. But do apps understand that? So Runkeeper is really stupid. It tells me you should go on a walk every day you should go for a run every day at 8 p.m. Why doesn't it suggest me based on what I've been doing all day? The length of the run, the type of intensity, and so forth. Fitbit knows a lot more, but it's still stupid. You know, maybe I've worked out in the morning, I go to work, I sit around all day, and then no matter what I do, in the evening it tells me 1,000 more steps, right? So it could be a lot smarter. And going on to another contextual stat here, and I'm gonna combine the both later. So where are we using apps? Across all categories, mainly at home, at the office, and during a commute, which is pretty clear. If you look at that for games, it becomes clear that most of the time we use games are during our commute. Now, a gaming app should leverage that information, right? If I combine the two now, fitness apps and gaming apps, and where and what we're doing together, picture this. After a day of laziness at work, physical laziness, I get into the subway and my phone realizes I'm currently on my commute. So Fitbit will analyze how much have I walked today. The game app says, wait, he's on a commute, so now it's my time to make the most money, right? So both will trigger maybe a notification to me. The game says, here is 50 gold coins, go play. Fitbit says, you've been lazy all day. Why don't you get off 2 stations early and walk home? So these would be a lot more smarter communication with me as a consumer to increase engagement with their apps. I hope it became clear what I meant with this. Now the channel doesn't really matter how they communicate, but that's getting smarter as well. So Google Now has opened up to third-party apps. So you can push certain messages into Google Now based on contextual behavior. For example, Google shows me air quality in Hong Kong when I'm in Hong Kong, which is pretty cool. Here it showed me how to say good morning and the exchange rate between Singapore dollars and Indian rupees. Messengers are in this game as well. Not too familiar with Hike on day-to-day usage, but definitely Line and Messenger try to get into, on WeChat, try to get into this communication with third-party apps to the consumer because, as I said earlier, we're spending most of our time on communication and social networking, and they can potentially monetize that. All right, with only a few minutes left, there's 2 more topics, short, brief topics. I chose this word very intentionally because it sounds very low-tech, right? And I'm Swiss. So Swiss Army knife. The phone also becomes sort of a Swiss Army knife to our low-tech world around us. At a certain stage, so it becomes our key to our door, or potentially could be our key to our doors. It could be our remote control. For literally anything around our house or our office. And that's what's happening step by step. It's also very fragmented. Internet of Things, that's a keyword here. But at the same time, this software eating the world is also affecting the low-tech offline kind of world of physical things. And if you combine the two, Samsung attempted this with a lot of sensors in our phones. And then they realized it's too crazy, so sensors could be everywhere, and that's the combination actually. So you can, your phone becomes sort of a tricorder that accesses whatever is around us, and you can steer or influence that. Similar to the Uberization, but definitely 2 different types of industries. All right. So where is this headed? I think this is headed to a something I call any screen anywhere. How have we been using our phones or our basically mobiles, the pre-smartphones? We started with the internet, especially in Japan, and then the rest of the world maybe 10 years ago. We consumed phones with calling, SMS, and then mobile web. Thanks to iPhone and smartphones, we started to have software on our phones, apps on our phones, and we had utilities. We could do stuff that our computer could do initially, and suddenly the phone became so powerful that it could replace my PC and my laptop and my tablet. So we moved to a multi-screen strategy where everything, so Gmail gives me almost the same experience no matter what device I'm using, but they're all my devices, right? They're all mine. Everybody who has a family knows that that's a problem at home. So you have devices that belong to different people. You have different iTunes accounts. You have different, kids use your iPad, but you don't want to make them purchases. They want to use the TV and so forth. And they're all interconnected. So it's multi-screen, but it's not ideal. So I think where it's moving is that this virtualization is continuing in the back end, together with the Uberization and the Swiss Army knife trend, where I walk around with an identity. And I don't need necessarily a phone. I think the phone will still stay. But as long as I go and pick my friend's phone up, I identify myself, and it would give me the full experience of what my digital self will represent. So I pick up his phone, I use my thumbprint or a chip or whatever, my login, and I can use a stock trade from do a stock trade on my bank account and give my phone back to him. And he can't access anything because when he logs in, he gets his own digital self. And I walk back into my hotel room, and I see a TV screen which switches on to my digital environment and so forth. So I think that's the virtualization will continue with the other trends that I mentioned to a place where technically we could have phones lying around or screens lying around that we just use all together, and we don't need to upgrade to the best phone every 6 months or so. Cool. All right. Thank you very much for your time. As I said, this is the link for my slides if you're interested. I'm here all day, and please approach me and discuss anything that was mentioned here or anything about mobile. We'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rico. I'm just going to open the floor for some questions if we have. Maybe 2, 3 questions. You can raise your hand, the mic will reach out to you. What's that? You'd like to ask a question?
They want a screen back.
Oh, the link back up.
Can you show my screen again, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. It's very complicated, sorry. I tried to make it easy, but still. I need a better domain name.
Could you raise the hand, please? Yeah.
By the way, Google told me good morning in Hindi, not in Tamil, so contextually really bad.
You showed that Apple Watch, which enables one-touch payment. But where are we actually in terms of mobile payments? Is it secure yet, or a long way to go?
It's really fragmented. I think there's a lot of solutions out there that are secure, like PayPal. There is solutions that use digital currency in gaming, in the gaming space, for example, which can be considered as very convenient and seamless. I think where we are right now is it's just fragmented and very geographically focused. So you would find people, good solutions in Singapore, good solutions maybe in India, in China or in the US. I'm not familiar with every country and every solution. It's very crowded. I think that's where we are right now. And I think everybody's in the same, it's a leveled playing field, maybe except for Visa, MasterCard, and those guys who actually execute those transactions. They are in a very powerful position, I'd say. But banks and startups, I'd say, are in the same race.
I have a quick question. You mentioned about a couple of technologies, and in the end, like virtualization, which would be actually bringing up a new kind of experience for people. What are the other technology trends you foresee upcoming in next 3 to 5 years, which can impact the change? Like NFC probably can really impact the way mobile-to-mobile interactions can happen, which can influence my interaction with the other guy right out there, or with the environment and like that. So what are the new trends that you are seeing which might be coming up in next few years?
Well, if I could predict the technologies, I think I would found my own company right now. In, I think 2015, I think payment is really an interesting space. Beyond that, for mobile, it's very hard to say. It's a very short-lived industry where things happen very quickly. You have hardware components, you have business layer components that need to come together, and then the software component. So this space is so enabling because it's very flexible on what you build on top of it, on top of these three elements. I see startups working for a long time on improving QR codes. I think QR codes, I didn't include them in my presentation, but in China, QR codes are very, very common thanks to phones actually enabling QR codes right away, which doesn't happen in the West. I don't know why. You need to download an app first. Your camera could do that, right, all the time. So there's a startup in Switzerland called Shortcut. There's a Shortcut app, and if as a developer, you could basically integrate OCR in your app anywhere with any surface. So I can take a picture of this if this scene has been pre-recorded. You could recognize that instead of a QR code. So I'd say OCR is an interesting field, but it is for enabling, for example, mobile commerce, ads, offline ads, and so forth, making conversions for apps easier from offline to send them to the App Store. But beyond that, I guess I'm a little bit hesitant because there's such a broad field of technologies around with our phones. I'd say that virtualization, battery technology, and data. So whatever you're collecting as data, if you're collecting very significantly interesting data points that can be leveraged, I think these are the three areas where there's a lot of technology needed, but also where there's a lot of business upside.
We'll take one final question. All right.
Yeah. This is Hussein from Integra Software Services.
Yep.
I have a query on augmented reality and virtual reality. So I just read some article, the statistical data saying that $200 billion business is there by 2020 in only these two segments, augmented reality and virtual reality. So do you have any information about these two segments, how much is going to dominate among the other types of apps?
Right. I was thinking of both, whether or not I should mention them. They are very interesting technologies. I'd say if you think about virtualization and just any screen anywhere, they're basically enabling you as a screen. It's just another screen. So VR is another screen, whereas augmented reality is a way to process what's happening around us, so the contextual side of what I talked about in smart commerce. Two very interesting fields, but honestly, I don't see myself walking around with a VR glass from Oculus, for example, everywhere. But they're very interesting. Well, it's just technologically not as advanced to make it smaller. Google Glass wasn't a great application to this case. But I think for office use, like teleconferencing, it's very interesting, VR. Augmented reality could be very interesting. I'm very excited about, I usually don't say great words about Microsoft, but their approach to augmented reality is actually very interesting. I'd love to try it. I had not a chance to try it. And there's a lot of, Google is also in this space and so forth. We'll see what's to come. And Facebook is also, I mean, a lot of people think social networking is all what Facebook does, but they're also in that race with Oculus, and I'm sure that in a gaming experience, it could be very interesting. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, just approach me if you have other questions. I saw that some more questions in the audience.
Sir, one question here. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Time, put your hands together for Rico for giving us some great insights into the user trends in mobile. Thanks, Rico. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.